I was thinking early this morning about fads in the kingdom of God, and I thought of 4 of them. We're going to go over them here real quick. This doesn't need to take a long time. But this isn't necessarily a fad, the first one, but it's one that believers have had to wrestle with a lot over the years. It's a scene from Matthew 16, after Jesus came into the region of Caesarea Philippi, that's up north there. He asked his disciples, saying, "Who are men saying that I, the Son of Man, am?" They'd been in the marketplaces. They'd gone shopping for food and all that. And they said, "Well, some say you're John the Baptizer, raised from the dead. Others say you're Elijah that's supposed to come before the Messiah gets here. Some others, Jeremiah, because we're never told about his death, or one of the prophets." And he said to them, "And you? Who do you say I am?" Simon Peter answered and said, "You are the Messiah, the Son of the living God." You know what that meant to Peter? I tell you what it did not mean. It did not mean that Peter knew there was a pre-existent Son of God through whom God created the world. Nobody knew that. Hadn't been revealed yet. The Messiah was something Israel had been looking for centuries. And they called him the Son of God. Even Caiaphas, the high priest, when he had Jesus on trial, said, "Are you the Son of God?" He didn't mean that pre-existed. He didn't believe anything like that. Nobody did. He meant, "Are you the Messiah?" That was one of the names for their Messiah, was Son of God. That's what Peter thought he meant. But Jesus answered and said to him, "You are a blessed man, Simon, son of Jonah, bar-Jonah. Flesh and blood did not reveal that to you, but my Father is in heaven." In other words, God had touched Peter to say something beyond himself, like the prophets. But it wasn't beyond Jesus. He knew where that came from. In other words, Peter was more blessed than he knew, but he wasn't more blessed than Jesus knew. Jesus knew where that was coming from. It had a ring to it. And he said, "I tell you that you are Peter, and upon this rock I'll build my assembly, and the gates of Hades will not prevail against it." That rock, now, Catholics will say that rock was Peter. The next verse, if we had it in there, he would say, "I'll give you the keys of the kingdom of God." And the Catholics teach that Jesus was handing Peter the generalship of the assembly that they call the Pope. And Peter handed it to somebody else, and somebody else handed it to somebody else, and somebody else handed it, and the guy in Rome right now would tell you it's been handed to him through generations. That's not what Jesus was saying. Protestants will say that it's Peter's confession that's what did it. Peter didn't know what he was saying. He didn't understand the depth of what he was saying. The rock is what God did, not Peter did.
Right.
The rock is when God communicates something. That's the rock that God's family are built up with. Nothing else will build you up except something that comes from God. The Pope can't build you up. People's confession can't build you up. But if you get something from God, the gates of hell can't resist that. That's what Jesus was talking about. That's just our warm-up. Now let's get into some facts.